At $20,000 a year, money decides almost everything for you. At 100,000, you finally begin deciding some things for yourself. And at 1 million, money stops being the obvious problem. But that does not mean your problems disappear. They become different, because income does not simply buy nicer things. At every level, it changes what you worry about, what you tolerate, what people expect from you, and how much of your life actually belongs to you. So here is the question that follows you through every level. At what income does your life finally become yours? You would think the answer is simple. Earn more, stress less, become free. But somewhere on the way up, that equation starts breaking. Because the number that looks rich from below rarely feels rich once you are living inside it. And the first surprise begins at the very bottom. $20,000 survival. You make around $20,000 a year. Your room is small. Your desk is pushed against the wall because there is nowhere else to put it. The chair came with the apartment. Your phone has a cracked corner you stopped noticing months ago. You know exactly how much money is in your account. Not approximately, exactly. Because every dollar already has somewhere to go. Rent, food, transportation, phone, electricity, then whatever survives until next payday. At this level, money is not really something you use. It is something you constantly negotiate with. You do not ask whether something is worth buying. You ask whether buying it will create a problem later. A friend sends you a message. Dinner tonight? You type, maybe next time. You are not busy. You have $12 left until Friday. And this is what people above this level often forget. When there is no margin, inconvenience becomes expensive. A broken phone is not annoying. It is a financial event. A sick day is not rest. It is missing income. A car repair can rearrange the entire month. One small mistake becomes large because there is nothing underneath you to absorb it. So you spend more time thinking about money than people with more money probably imagine. Not because you love money, because you have too little room to ignore it. Your life is not organized around wealth. It is organized around avoiding emergencies. And eventually, you start believing one thing. If I could just earn a little more, this pressure would finally disappear. It does, but it gets replaced. $35,000, breathing room. Then your income rises. $35,000. Nothing looks dramatically different at first. Same black shirt, same basic apartment, same morning commute. But something important changes. There is occasionally money left over. Not much, maybe $200 after a decent month. For the first time, you can solve small problems before they become disasters. Your shoes wear out. You replace them. Your phone battery becomes unreliable. You buy another phone without splitting the payment across 6 months. You go to dinner and look at the food before the prices. Not always, but sometimes. That feeling is new. You start saving. $500 becomes $1,000. Then an unexpected expense arrives and knocks it back down. But this time you rebuild it. That matters. $35,000 does not feel wealthy. It feels less fragile. And less fragile is more powerful than it sounds. You finally have enough breathing room to stop staring only at the floor in front of you, which means you begin looking sideways. And that creates the next problem. Comparison. At 20,000, you knew you were struggling. At 35, you begin noticing people who appear only slightly ahead. Their apartment is nicer, their car is newer, they travel twice a year, and because they do not look impossibly rich, their life feels reachable. You think, maybe I should be there already. Survival pressure begins fading, but status pressure quietly takes its place. And once comparison starts, $50,000 begins looking like the answer. $50,000, normal life. At $50,000, your life begins looking normal from the outside. You move into a cleaner apartment. You own a reliable car. Your refrigerator has actual food in it, instead of ingredients that only become meals if you are creative enough. Your bank account no longer reaches zero every month. You have subscriptions you forgot you pay for. That alone would have terrified the $20,000 version of you. You start buying something you rarely could afford before. Convenience. Delivery instead of cooking. A ride instead of the bus. A better flight time instead of the cheapest ticket. The purchase is rarely luxury, it is friction removal, and that is what more income often buys first. Not mansions, less inconvenience. This is the point where you finally begin feeling comfortable, and that is exactly where the danger begins. Because your standards rise faster than your memory. The apartment that once would have felt incredible starts feeling small. The reliable car begins looking old beside your coworker's new one. The restaurant you once considered expensive becomes normal. You stop comparing your life to the $20,000 version of yourself. You compare it to the people standing beside you now. That makes $50,000 one of the first dangerous income levels, because you can afford enough upgrades to believe you can afford all of them. You cannot. You are no longer fighting to survive. Now you are learning whether your lifestyle expands every time your paycheck does. And if it does, the next raise will not make you free. It will simply finance a more expensive version of normal. $75,000, the successful version of you. At $75,000, something changes outside your bank account. People begin describing you differently. You are doing well. Your parents mention your job when relatives ask about you. You sit at a restaurant and pay without calculating the bill in your head first. You take a vacation and do not spend the entire trip wondering whether you should have stayed home. Your apartment has space that serves no survival purpose. A second bedroom, a balcony, a desk that is actually a desk. Your life begins accumulating evidence of progress. And here's the problem with evidence. Other people can see it. Coworkers invite you to better restaurants. Friends assume you can split expensive weekends evenly. Your family sees a salary larger than they remember earning. And slowly, your income stops being just your income. It becomes everyone's assumption about what you should be able to afford. You feel richer, but your obligations are becoming richer too. The better apartment costs more. The car payment appears. Insurance rises. Convenience turns into routine. You are earning far more than you did at 20,000. Yet when payday arrives, an uncomfortable amount is already spoken for. And this is where the first major illusion breaks. High income and financial freedom are not the same thing. One is money entering. The other is how much of your future has already been promised away. 75,000 can make you look successful, but 6 figures is the number everyone says changes everything. So eventually, you get there. $100,000, 6 figures. Then it happens. $100,000 a year, 6 figures. For years, this number sounded like a rival. You imagined $100,000 as the place where normal financial problems ended. Then the first paycheck arrives, and 6 figures immediately starts looking smaller from the inside. You do not receive $100,000. Taxes take their share. Housing has become more expensive. Your lifestyle has evolved. Retirement contributions leave before the money reaches you. You still have a budget. It is simply a larger budget. That realization can feel almost insulting. But something genuinely important has changed. A $500 emergency is irritating, not catastrophic. You can replace an appliance without discussing it for 3 days. You can book a flight because someone you love needs you there. You can save meaningful amounts of money. For the first time, investing begins feeling less theoretical. $1,000 a month, then $1,500. You watch the account grow while you sleep, slowly, almost disappointingly slowly. But underneath that boring growth, something enormous is happening. You are beginning to build a life that does not depend entirely on the next paycheck. That is where income starts becoming leverage, if you allow it. Because there is another version of the exact same $100,000 income. Better car, bigger apartment, designer clothes, 4 trips, more subscriptions, 0 meaningful savings, same salary, completely different future. And this is the head fake of 6 figures. Getting to 100,000 is not the decision that changes your life. What you refuse to turn that income into is. But there is still something 6 figures has not fully bought you. The ability to walk away. That arrives at the next level. $150,000. Choice. At $150,000, money starts buying something better than objects. Choice. Your boss calls you into his office. A project has gone wrong. Someone needs to stay late for the next 3 weeks. Years ago, you would have nodded before he finished speaking. Now you hesitate. You have savings, investments, no credit card balance, enough cash to survive for months if necessary. Nothing dramatic happens. You simply realize something. You could say no. Maybe you still say yes, but now it is a decision. That distinction changes the way you walk back to your desk. Because financial freedom does not always look like retirement. Sometimes it looks like the ability to disappoint someone who controls your paycheck. You negotiate more confidently. You stop pretending every opportunity is a privilege. You choose the better apartment because you genuinely value it, not because strangers need to see it. You buy time, a cleaner twice a month, a direct flight, someone to repair what you used to spend Saturday fixing. At lower incomes, you traded time to save money. Now you sometimes spend money to reclaim time. This feels like freedom. And then comparison finds you again. You begin entering rooms where everyone earns more. The person beside you makes $200,000. The manager makes $300. Someone you follow online claims to make your annual salary every month. 6 figures stops feeling impressive remarkably quickly when your reference group changes. You escaped one comparison ladder and immediately found another, which creates a strange question. If a $250,000 income still has another ladder above it, what exactly changes there? The answer is surprisingly quiet. $250,000, money becomes infrastructure. At $250,000 a year, your finances become less visible. You are not carrying bags of money home. Instead, systems begin appearing. Automatic investments, retirement accounts, insurance, tax planning, business income. Mortgage decisions, documents you once ignored, now receive entire meetings. This is where wealth starts becoming boring, and that is not an insult. It is a sign that money is changing from something you display into something you organize. Your home is larger, your neighborhood is quieter, your car could be expensive or completely ordinary. At this level, appearance becomes optional. That is a subtle form of wealth. You no longer need every purchase to prove progress, but something else happens. People begin treating your income as shared information even when they do not know the number. The family request becomes larger. The restaurant choice becomes more expensive. Someone jokes, "You can afford it." Sometimes they are right. That does not mean you want to. Your problems have changed again. You are no longer asking, "Can I pay for this?" You're asking, "Is this the best use of my money?" And that question is harder than it sounds, because once basic needs are solved, every dollar has competing futures. Spend it, invest it, buy time with it, give it away. Use it to take a risk. Use it to make sure you never need to take one. Money is no longer just currency, it is potential. And from here, you would assume earning twice as much simply creates twice as much freedom. That is where the latter becomes strange. Because at $500,000, you can accidentally rebuild the exact trap you thought you escaped. $500,000, the expensive life. At $500,000 a year, ordinary people assume you are rich. And compared with most people, your income is enormous. Your world reflects it. A beautiful home, comfortable travel, restaurants where prices have stopped being memorable. You can solve most ordinary financial problems immediately, so this should be freedom. Except there is something almost nobody sees. A $500,000 income can create a $500,000 lifestyle. The house expands, then property costs expand with it. The children's opportunities become expensive. Travel becomes premium. Convenience becomes outsourced. Your social circle changes. Your baseline changes. And this is the dangerous part. The extraordinary quietly becomes normal. Once something becomes normal, losing it no longer feels like giving up luxury. It feels like going backward. This is why some people earning amounts that once sounded impossible can still feel trapped. Their income is huge, but so is the machine required to maintain their life. And suddenly, the same old fear returns in a different suit. What happens if the income stops? The biggest luxury at this level is not the house. It is not the car. It is not the flight. It is keeping the gap between what you earn and what you need. If your life requires $480,000 to feel normal, $500,000 does not create much freedom. If your life requires $150,000, the same income creates enormous leverage. Same income, completely different control. Income determines the size of the river. Lifestyle determines how much water actually reaches the reservoir. And if $500,000 can still create dependence, surely 1 million finally ends the argument. Not exactly. $1 million. The number stops being the point. Then 1 year, your income crosses $1 million. The number looks unreal on paper, 1 followed by 6 zeros. The $20,000 version of you would not recognize this life. Your home has space you once associated with hotels. You do not know what groceries cost this month. Travel problems are solved with money before they become problems. You can help your parents. You can fund opportunities. You can write a check that would once have represented years of your life. Many of the problems you dreamed of escaping are genuinely gone. But the largest change is quieter. You begin thinking differently about time. A meeting costing you 3 hours feels more expensive than the dinner after it. A bad partnership feels more dangerous than an overpriced purchase. An unhealthy relationship cannot be justified because you need help paying rent. Money has removed many excuses. And that can be uncomfortable. Because when survival disappears, you meet yourself without it. Are you working because you need the money? Or because you do not know who you are without the work? Are you buying the bigger house because you want it? Or because people at your level are supposed to? Are you still climbing because there is somewhere you genuinely want to go? Or because climbing became your identity? At $20,000, you imagined wealth would eventually remove every financial thought from your mind. Instead, money changed the questions. First, how do I survive this month? Then, how do I become comfortable? Then, how do I become successful? Then, how do I protect what I built? And eventually, what exactly was I building it for? And that brings us back to the question from the beginning. At what income does your life finally become yours? The real income ladder. The difference between $20,000 and $1 million is enormous. Pretending otherwise would be ridiculous. More income can buy safety, healthier environments, better opportunities, time, mobility, privacy, and the ability to survive mistakes that would destroy someone with no margin. Money matters, but income alone never tells you whether someone is wealthy. You saw the same person at every level, same black shirt, same face, different surroundings. At $20,000, almost every dollar controlled him. At $50,000, he began buying convenience. At $100,000, he finally had room to build. At $150,000, money began giving him choices. At $250,000, money became infrastructure. At $500,000, lifestyle became the new danger. And at $1 million, the question was no longer whether he could afford his life. It was whether the life was actually worth affording. Because the final level is not $1 million. There is no final salary. Someone will always earn more. Someone will always live in a house that makes yours look small. If income is the scoreboard, you can never finish the game. The real progression happens when your income stops controlling your identity, when you can earn more without needing everyone to see it, when you can spend less without feeling like you moved backward, when you can leave something profitable because it is costing you your life, when a paycheck becomes a tool instead of a scoreboard. At $20,000, you wanted enough money to breathe. At 1 million, you finally understand what you were actually chasing. Not the number, not the house, not the salary, the ability to choose what happens next. And maybe that was the answer from the beginning. Your life becomes yours not at the income level where you can buy everything, but at the level where money finally gives you enough control to stop living by everyone else's definition of success. That is the level that changes everything.